The properties of steel make it a superior material. Tensile strength, resistance to corrosion, only the hardest. Crazy shit, really. Listen to Living Proof Radio. The full experience on our Patreon. Thank you and good night.
uh like the earlier generation about like shit being kind of frowned upon or weird.
Mm-hmm.
I think that every fool that does do graffiti is also creative. And I think that's something where it's like in that era, fools kind of like shut down, you know? They're like, oh, you're either fucking like painting or if you're doing canvases and art, like that shit's hella weak.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like, really, it's like, honest way to look at it, I feel like, is every fool that does graffiti does. They're creative because they make their letters, they fucking have their own style,
Yeah.
and they're even going out there and going out their way to go create something.
Yeah.
But I think the way the ecosystem of graffiti is, it's like fools like get caught up on the wrong things, you know? They're like, oh, you gotta be hard, you gotta go get up hella crazy, you gotta do crazy ass shit, but it's just like, you can do both, you know? You don't gotta just be like
definitely.
one or the other, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, also like even just operating, like trying to like meet somebody else's standards for yourself is always like the wrong way to go about it.
Yeah,
I mean,
100%.
I like realized a whole lot when I was young, like right when I got locked up, because I went in and like people ask you like what you're there for, you know, and I'm already like a small like white dude, so people are like, what are you doing? And I got like all my teeth, I'm like clean, you know what I mean? So they're like, what are you doing here? And then I'm like, I'm here for graffiti, and people were just laughing, you know what I mean? Like, just like, that's not even a crime, and you thought you were bad and all this shit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then I like quickly like realized like, okay, like, you can't hide who you are, so you might as well get comfortable with like who you really are and just like show it for real, for whether you're not gonna be the hardest dude in the world, you know what I mean? And like, it's okay, you know?
100%.
And like, in terms of what you were saying about being an artist and that all writers are artists, it's funny because like insult that they like were using a lot back in that time is calling people studio, or like they still say it, like you're a studio gangster, you know what I mean? Like, and that was like a negative back in the day, you know what I mean? Like fools would say that about dudes who were street that were trying to rap. They'd be like, nah, you're studio, you're not really street. Or like, you're a basketball player, like stay on the court, you know what I mean? Like type shit. And I look at that and I'm like, nah, I'm proud to be in the studio, you know what I mean? I'm proud to like have other things that I'm interested in. Like, I'm proud to be sitting here like reading a book or whatever, you know? Like I just got fully comfortable being myself, and I think that's what allows me to be here like doing this, you know what I mean? Like even if the shit fails, like even if it doesn't really matter, because I feel like fools sometimes will be trying to hide like they're like Batman or something like that, you know what I mean? Like in a cave, like nobody could get to them, you know? And really it's like you're hiding yourself, but like we know who you are, like your boys know who you are, you know? And if you're somebody special or whatever, you should share whatever talent you have or personality that you have, you know? And that's something that I appreciated about the interview that you did that I listened to. I was like, you kept talking about being free and like breaking down like barriers, like freeing your people is something that you kept saying. And I want to ask you, like, what do you mean specifically when you're saying freeing your people?
Yeah, I mean, freeing your people is just like, that's what I do all this shit for, honestly. And really, it's like, this shit's like, I feel like it's bigger than me, you know? It's not really like I don't really give a fuck about myself like that much, you know? But I've been presented the opportunities I've been presented, and my art is taking me to these places like I never thought it would take me. But yeah, it's like I do it for the fam, I do it for my brothers and sisters and fucking like my little cousins and shit, you know?
Yeah.
Like, just because it's just like, that's more important to me than all this shit. It's like, and being able to inspire them and show them, hey, you don't got to go fucking work at Applebee's or fucking like, you know, like you don't gotta work at a retail store or whatever the fuck. Like there's alternative routes if you want to take them. So yeah, because I know what it's like growing up in America and shit, and we're all fed a lot of shit and like told where to go, or like told what direction is the right direction or what way is the right way, but kind of touches back on what we were saying earlier. It's like only you know what the fuck you're supposed to do.
Definitely.
So it's just like I want to always remind people to be free in that way, to do what the fuck they want to do, because that's the truest shit you can do.
Yeah.
And it's like that's being pure and that's being honest with yourself, and that allows you to like be honest with yourself and be who you really are, you know?
Yeah, and that's probably why you're like winning in a sense, you know what I mean? Because I feel like the times that I've actually had the most success isn't when I was like trying the hardest or trying to figure out the pathway, like trying to be shrewd about my shit. It was really when I like got calm, you know, and like just like did what I felt like I was really comfortable doing. Like that was actually when I feel like I've had like the greatest leaps and bounds, you know. Of all the places that you've been to and everything, because I haven't really traveled at all, bro. Like I've been to like, I'm from Buffalo, I spent time in Pittsburgh, and I spent time in New York. I've been to like Miami, I've been to Atlanta, but both were like short trips. I went to LA for the first time this past year. True. I was out there for like a week or something, and but besides that, like I haven't really traveled. Most of the time since I was like 16 or whatever, I've been on parole and shit. So of all the places that you've traveled, that you've been around, like what's the best like place that I gotta go to? Because I can fly international now, you know. So
yeah. Damn, you're on parole since you were 16?
So 16, I caught my first case, and then I was on probation, and then when I got off probation, I caught another case, and it went back to back until I actually got sentenced for the case that like people know about, where I got locked up. Mm-hmm. That happened when I was 21. So from age 16 to 33, like I either had pending charges or I was on supervision. But really the big chunk of it was from 21 to 33, and that was all parole. So it was like,
that's fucking crazy.
I know it's like dumb. It's like dumb. Like
that's insane. But I mean, that just goes to show how fucked this system is. You know, it's like
it shows like, cause like people asked me before, they were like, well, why you and why not? Cause there's people that have painted way more than me. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I was like, I think it's a combination of like the city that I did it in. Like I wouldn't advise anybody to crush a small city, but I was stupid because I came from Buffalo, which is an even smaller city. It's even smaller than Pittsburgh. So like me and Attack painted Buffalo like the way that fools should paint New York City. And I didn't know that you weren't supposed to do that. And then I went to Pittsburgh. I was only like 18, 19, went off crazy for a short period of time. And then they started the investigation. So I moved to New York City. I was here for like a year and a half, like going back there for the case, but and painting while I was like, you know, cased up or whatever while I was here. Mm-hmm. But really it's like a combination of being poor, because if you got the money to pay for the lawyers, they'll give you the right advice. I had terrible representation at the time, being in the wrong city at the wrong time. Like it was a hot topic for their little like newspaper and shit. And also, like, they had just convicted and sentenced Daniel Montano, MF1, and he got 2.5 to 5. So it was like that set a precedent, basically. Like, he was the number 1 most wanted vandal, they said, and at the time they said I was the number 2. It's an arbitrary system that they had set up, you know? Like, there were definitely people that I would say painted more or like had painted longer in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
But they just made it hot for that moment. Yeah. And so, and like I didn't have like, you know, some people got family members that would like step up to the plate and be like, all right, we're going to figure this out and shit. Like my mom supported me emotionally, and, you know, as much as she could, she supported me, but she didn't have bread, you know what I mean? So like, I think that's ultimately what, you know, led to me getting so like railroaded or whatever. And I'm glad that like it's not a more common thing, you know what I mean? I hope it never happens again, but that's why it went on so long, you know.
Yeah.
And then once you're on parole, bro, like I'm sure you got homies that have been on parole before, right? So like the rate of recidivism is 87%. Like I violated or I had like I violated almost like every year. I'd have
Yeah.
something happen, and it would be dumb shit like curfew violation, or you know, I actually got arrested and went back to jail for just having art materials. Like
Yeah, that
I
was
had
fucked
crazy.
up.
Oh, you heard about that?
I mean, it's just fucked up. You can even get wrapped for having
I know.
art materials.
Yeah, but you know, different time, different place, and like it's in the past now. Like I feel like obviously like a big weight's been lifted off of my shoulders. I've been, you know, fully like I haven't had a charge, you know what I mean, in 2 years or whatever. Like I feel great. Like I feel like I'm just gonna keep fucking riding with no more legal drama, you know. Knock on
Yeah,
wood.
for sure. I mean, yeah, just stay free, you know. That's
Yeah.
what that shit's set up to hold you down.
I
It's like,
feel
of
like-
course you violated over the course of 10 years. It's like,
Yeah.
it's set up like that. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, lawyer up always for sure though.
But back to the question though, is what now, because
Where you
I could
should
travel.
go?
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta go to Tokyo for sure. That's a life changer right there. I advise everyone to go to Tokyo.
Okay.
That's like, it's so different. It's just, especially coming from America, it's just so different than like anything you've ever seen.
Yeah.
And then I'll say Mexico too, Mexico City. It's like
I wanna
one
do
of the
that.
best cities.
Yeah, my girlfriend's Mexican actually, and when we first started dating, I was like, we gotta go down there because I want to go. She wants to go. You know, I heard great things. Like,
Yeah.
you got people down there?
Yeah, there's fools out there. I would say that's probably like my top two.
Okay.
Like where you should go. But anywhere really, I think it's just good to go as far and as wide as you can, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's just like you learn hella shit through traveling.
Yeah, it's a crazy feeling. I haven't felt that in a minute. Like that, you know, when you come home from someplace and you're like, whoa, like I see all this in a completely different light right now. I just haven't had that feeling in a while. I got off parole and like got a job and just been working like all the time since then, and it hasn't fully like sunk it in. I still drive like somebody that's on parole, you know what I mean?
True,
like there's like
true.
shit that's probably gonna take a minute for it to wash off. But
Yeah, for sure.
so you said like the first like big check that you got for the art came from Supreme?
That was, yeah, my first big gig, really.
And then from there, like, how long was that time frame from that Supreme to just you being like the Givenchy like king or whatever?
I mean, it took a few years. Other shit happened in between. I did Supreme again. I did Valence, which is like the first artist collaboration that Arterix did.
Okay.
So that was cool, but yeah, it
You were
all
the first
progressed.
artist collab that they did?
Yeah.
That's fresh.
Yeah, it was cool. That was like a full circle moment, just
Yeah.
because like everything prior was just like, oh, done. It was sick. I feel like it was a moment.
When
But,
you're talking to people at these places, like, are they generally pretty easy to work with? Do they let you kind of do your thing? Like,
every situation is different. It just depends. Like that one, the Arky shit, they just passed me the jacket, so I just painted on them, so it was pretty free. But there's all different like processes of design and shit, you know. Sometimes you pass artwork over, sometimes you develop artwork together. Yeah, it's different every time, really. Every company kind of got their own protocols and shit.
and since you've been doing that, like, have you like kind of comfortably settled into approaching making art that way, or are you like what do you feel like the next step will be for you? Do you think continuing to do more collaborations and stuff on clothes, or do you see yourself as like shifting your focus again?
I'm always just keep trying new shit and doing new shit. This is a part of the freedom part of it. I don't want to like box myself into any like one type of doing, you know? So
Yeah.
it's just like this year I focus a lot on like fine art and shit like that. So I was making a lot of canvases, doing a lot of shows and stuff. From the previous year, I was more like airbrushing and shit like that.
And when
But
when you do a show like in a different city and stuff, do you fly there and make all the work in that city?
it depends. Yeah, I mean, I make art wherever I go. Pretty much, it's just like second nature to me at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I just try and like stay productive and always just make as much shit as I can.
Yeah.
But yeah, next year probably focus more on like making my own clothing, doing my own clothing line, things like that. Cause
Okay, fresh.
I learned a lot through working with these companies, and like learned a lot about the process and the back end of it and shit.
Yeah.
So now it's time for me to apply that knowledge in my own way with no limitations or no yeses or nos, and fucking just do it like truly how I want to do it,
Yeah.
you know? So I'm excited for that. But I'm going to just keep expanding, trying different mediums and stuff. Like,
Mhm.
I fucked with the airbrush heavy for a minute there, but I don't want to limit myself just to the airbrush, so I want to start fucking with like different types of mediums, maybe fuck with the oil. I just recently started messing with ceramics.
I saw the
So,
ceramic stuff. That looks great, actually. I was super hyped to see that.
Yeah, I'm going to just keep trying different shit because there's so much different shit to do, you know?
Right, right. I think, like, working with Aerosol, like, for me, the way that it went was just, yeah, I drew when I was younger. Like, if you ask my mom, she'll be like, yeah, he's been an artist since he was, like, a little child.
Uh-huh.
But I feel like when I got into graffiti, it occupied so much of my mind, and my creative output just went all through that. And
Yeah.
I remember being like anti-art almost, like being like, no, I'm not an artist, I'm a vandal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like I did that for a long time, and then once I started kind of opening my mind up, it like flooded in. Like I was like, oh, there's no like learning about conceptual art, for example. Like you don't even have to make things with your own hands. You could conceive of an idea, and that could be a work of art, you know? Like it just opened my mind up so much instantly, and then I tried a million different things, and I feel like that's still what I'm doing to this day, is like experimentation all the time. But working with spray paint specifically is kind of like it spoils you in a way a little bit because of the opacity and the immediacy of like the material, as opposed to like working with oil, which is like more finicky. Like, and I never touched airbrush kind of for the reason that I feel like spray paint sort of ruined like working with other materials for me. Like I didn't know how to slow down so much, you know? Like I see people painting, like making an oil painting is almost like doing a puzzle or something like that. And my mind never worked like that. I always worked on like a huge scale, you know, and like always like working very fast, using my arm, my whole like body to make marks, you know. Are you working like that in the studio? Like, is it all like, have you noticed anything like that? Like when you're working with different materials, like, do you find it challenging, or do you feel like it's like exciting?
I have fun with it, really. Like, I just try to always have fun with it. Fucking just go crazy, really, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I put my body into it sometimes if I'm going big. But the airbrush, it's like a pretty, like, what's that shit called? Like, not technical, but it's like, I don't know, there's a lot of small parts and shit.
Yeah.
It's like kind of finicky, I guess you could say, where
Sure.
it's just like you got to keep that shit clean, and you got to like make sure that all the parts are working right on it, make sure the needle's not fucked up.
Yeah, like
I
when you
don't know,
see
it's
artists
just-
going in with the detail with airbrush, like, are you like, that's like beyond what I want to get into? Like
Well, that was just never my approach. My approach was always just like keep it simple.
yeah,
I was never like kind of even learning from graffiti and stuff of just like, oh, like I'm not trying to be over here like blowing on lines and
Right.
fucking taping shit off and shit.
yeah, definitely.
I was more like, okay, I just want it to be simple, straight to the point, and like easy to understand
For
from
sure.
like a young ass kid to like a old ass person or like a English speaker or a fucking a Japanese speaker or Spanish speaker. Like I wanted it to be kind of like universal in the way that graffiti is. You know, it's like fools throw ups whether it's fucking they're from here or they're from fucking Italy or something.
Right.
You know, like that's one major thing I fuck with about graffiti is like that common understanding no matter where you go.
Yeah.
So that kind of comes with the language that is translated in my work as well.
It's funny hearing you say that out loud because that's like perfectly conducive to marketing, you know what I mean, or product development, like what you just described. And maybe it's not intentional or whatever, but something that's universally recognized, like easily recognized across the board. I feel like that's like a lot of artists will go to school and learn to like make stuff that excludes a whole lot of people, you know what I mean? It'll be like intellectually higher or like technically so proficient that you see it and you're just like, oh, I can't do that, and that's why that is good, you know. Like there are all these different, you know, approaches, but what you're doing, I think it makes sense for like everything that you have going on. Like,
well, I mean, that's just where I came from, you know. It's like with graph, it's like there's the throw up, there's the stamp, you know.
Yeah,
that's your stamp.
Yeah,
and it's like in a way you could even say that's marketing. Like fools are just out here like, to put it into another viewpoint, it's just like, oh, like, all right, I got to go out tonight. I have to go market myself. I have to go fucking make a big ass marketing billboard, you know?
I mean, that's what it is. Like low key, like I was saying about the Batman shit or whatever, like you kind of create this like avatar character that is whatever you think of yourself as a graffiti writer, you know what I mean? Or at least that's what I did when I was younger. Like I was like the smallest kid, you know what I mean? So who I wanted to be in graffiti was going to be somebody that's tough, or you know what I mean? You could do that. You could craft a whole different person, but not saying that everybody does that, you know what I mean? But that's just like definitely a potential there.
Yeah, I mean, it always just depends on fools' approach and like why they do it, you know, and like what they want to do with it.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I always kept it separate, because I'm just like, that shit, I want my art to just stand on its own 2 feet and be able to walk around and mob around and do what it does, you know?
For sure.
And fucking, yeah, I think it's, because you see a lot of fools do the transition of like going from graph to like doing fine art and shit, but I feel like, I don't know, there's something like cool that's of like graph that is just graph, you know? Like there's an essence there that I feel like is kind of lost once fools get in the studio and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, in all reality, in my eyes, I guess, but whatever.
No, it's true. It's true. There's people that are pure. They'll always be known for doing that, you know what I mean? But you pay a price, you know what I mean? You're like limited in your existence. Like, I don't know. I can't like edit myself down to be that though. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I'm always just gonna be somebody that's like I don't even feel like I identify really as a graffiti writer. Like I almost feel like I'm just, you know what I mean? Like I feel like I'm like just a dude who happened to do this thing.
That's just one small part.
Yeah.
Like, you got hella other parts of yourself and shit.
Right,
and
right.
I feel like your art it's not like hella graph, you know? It's not.
I appreciate
like,
you saying that.
like you've kept it separate in your own way as well. Like,
I mean, all I did was separate the IGs. You know what I mean? Like I put like I was like, okay, this one's for art. This one's for me being like a funny guy. This one's for my, you know what I mean? Like that's all I could do to try and understand it myself. But
I think I don't know. I mean, I'm just telling you from my perspective. I think like the style of your art, it isn't feeling like graffiti, you know?
That's
like,
good, man. That's good.
I feel like, yeah, it's just not.
It's funny because it like conceptually always comes back to graffiti for me, or like in the way that I use colors.
You see bits and pieces of it, but it's not like, oh, I'm doing a burner on a fucking canvas.
Nah,
you know?
yeah, right. I mean, that's the thing. I definitely will say that. Actually, I can't even definitely say that because it's like when I see some like Lee canvas or something like that, I'm like, okay, that's sick, you know? Yeah. I would say that graffiti on canvas it shouldn't be done, but it should be done maybe by just like those guys, like the forefathers or whatnot. They've earned the right to, if you were part of like the first generation of people to present artwork in a gallery setting, then cool. Like, you know what I mean? I can't say anything about that. But if somebody's coming up and they're like, yo, come to my art show, I did a model train or something, you know what I mean? I'm like, all right, well, if that's, you know what I'm saying? That's not, I don't know. I guess also the categorization, like who really cares? You know what I mean? Like it's neither here nor there whether that's fine art to me. You know what I mean? But maybe it's mostly an intent or something. You know what I mean? Like if somebody's reaching for something higher.
I think intent is a huge part of it.
Yeah.
I think certain fools like put in enough work to be able to go and do that. Some fools didn't put in no work and try and do that, and that's the type of shit where I'm kind of just like, you know.
Yeah.
But whatever. I support fools creating, no matter what. Though it's just cool when fools like are creative and make shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I have the same perspective with graffiti. That's what graffiti even taught me is like, I don't give a fuck like who fools think is good or like if fools are just straight trash and just picked up some spray paint and just wanted to hit up. Like, it's just the act of doing it. You know, I feel like it's hard. So it's like I support anyone out there trying to go out and fuck shit up. Like,
for
I
sure.
feel like that's cool. Like, we need more fools fucking shit up. So,
Do we though?
yeah.
Do we? Like if you take a look
Might
out
as
on the
well
streets right
at
now.
this point.
Yeah, I mean, you take a look. I've never seen New York City this crushed before. You know what I mean? And at the same time, I walk around like, and it might just be some generational shit. It might just be because I'm getting older. But now I'm like walking around like, nah, it was better back in the day. You know? And like, I don't know if that is just what happens when you get older or whatever. You know? Like for somebody who's starting to write right now, they might be walking down the street and they're just overjoyed with like everything that they're seeing happening. You know, it's the most magical thing. What do you think about that? Like, in your opinion, when you walk around out here, are you like, do you get a positive? Do you get a good response?
I mean,
Are you disgusted?
Yeah.
Like for real?
I mean, I just like to see shit crash, you know? So
Yeah.
I fuck with it. I fuck with that shit's crashed. The graffiti that I actually like pay attention to and like really see is like fools that do put in work or make an actual impact. So, but yeah, because I was once in that era too where I was like, oh, it's just vandal, you know, just like got a bomb shit, whatever. But it's just like having phased out of that and progressed even into whatever the fuck I'm doing now, like looking back, I'm like, wait, that's actually what I would have wanted was everything to be fucking crashed, you know? So it's like, it don't even matter if shit's good or not. Like, it's just on the vandalism aspect, it's like the more people hitting shit, kind of the better, you know? Because that was kind of the mindset I held at one point of like, oh, I just want to see everything smash and have as much shit on smash as I can. But
yeah, you're definitely a less like selfish or like controlling person than me then, because like I look out there and I'm like, I would buff everything and like I could like curate like specifically who I want where, you know what I mean? Like I'm like,
that's the curator though, the curation.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this is who should be up. But it's just like really, it's like at the end of the day, it's like fools are gonna do whatever the fuck they want to do, you know?
It's out of control.
It's just like I'd rather support that because everyone starts somewhere, you know? It's like fools suck at first, the majority of fools suck, but fools that stick with it and keep going, they'll get better, hopefully.
Definitely.
Not everyone does, but hopefully they do.
No, that's dope. When you're getting into the fine art stuff, are you like familiarizing yourself with the history of like art and whatnot?
Not really. Like, I'm not, like, I didn't go to art school or none of that shit. Like, that's what they go to art school for, you know? It's like, oh, I gotta study and, like, you know, do my research and shit like that, which, you know, if you learn that way and that's a part of your process, cool, but that's just never been a part of my process. My process always kind of just been, like, I want to do what I want to do. I want to fuck shit up. I want to fucking do it my way, and I'm going to just run it how I run it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, of course, like, research and history is good, but, like, I don't know. I get inspired in hella ways than just, like, that type of research, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'd rather get more inspired just from like traveling around and like living life and seeing shit I see naturally in life than like doing research into books and like papers and shit. But that's just like my learning style, I guess.
I think
because I always hated school my whole life. So
right,
it's just
right.
like,
And I think you having the confidence to say that is like very important for people to hear, you know, because when I was younger, I feel like I had this like need to prove to other people that had the opportunity to go to school and everything that I could participate in play the game the way they want to play it, you know? So like, I remember like consciously, like maybe in like 2013 or something, going into the Albright Knox, which is in Buffalo. It's like our big art museum, and walking through and taking photos of all of the paintings and all the little name tags, and then going home and starting to research first, like figure out which painting was my favorite and then research that artist. And I just kept going to a point where like I started chilling with kids that, you know, were getting their MFAs or whatever, or even chilling with people that taught at art school, and I would have conversations with them about art. And like I realized that I might have been investigating things deeper than they even had, or that they were. And I was like, am I doing this for myself, or am I like, if I'm sitting there reading about artwork that I have no relation to, it's not of my time, it's not of the same like aesthetic interest of mine, you know, why am I trying to get this whole, like, why am I doing that? And it probably was just because I felt like since I didn't go to art school, like I should know this stuff, you know? So it's a relief for me to hear you say this right now, where you're like, nah, that's not the way I do it. I get inspired by, you know, things that I see in real life, and it's just more natural. And also coupling that with the success that you have going on, it's like, that's the way, you know what I mean? That's the way that worked for you. It's not saying it's the way, but like,
yeah, I mean, everyone got their own process and shit, you know, but I think like, into your research that you're saying that you did, like if it's shit you fuck with and like that shit you're into, then it's like it is cool and probably helpful because you're into that for a reason, you know. So it's just like if that is a master in your eyes, then of course, you know, study the masters and shit. But I feel like with, I guess, any type of schooling, it's like they're always kind of telling you who the masters and shit are, you know?
For sure.
They're like, oh, this is the fucking master of this is the master of that.
Mm-hmm.
But really, like, seeing through that kind of, like, system and way of teaching is, like, a lot of these fools that they pointed out as masters ended up being major pieces of shit, you know?
Or like just
in
like
terms of like history, like even outside of art, but
oh
like,
yeah
historically, you know.
Sure,
But these
like,
same fools that they were like, oh, like praise this guy,
right?
But it's like really, it's like these fools were fucking like, you know, owning other people and like fucking like doing hella out of pocket shit.
For
like,
sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Definitely, yeah. I mean, for sure.
But
not to just completely like pivot or whatever, but I was just thinking about like the interview that I listened to where you were talking about how you're like kind of living a vagabond lifestyle of like moving from spot to spot and everything. Like right now as we're here, do you have like a home base, or are you still just floating around?
I'm just floating, really. Yeah, same
Sick.
shit. Vagabond life, fucking living out the suitcase, living out the Rimois. Cuddy homeless, but like I'm not like.
Are they worth the money, bro? I have never bought one of those yet. Are they rackable? Is that why people are into them so much?
I mean, you can get it however you get it. The wheels are nice. The wheels support the thing. They won't break off most of the time. So.
But you were paying for them before, though.
I mean,
I'm not the feds or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I'm not. But I'm just wondering because, like, I got the Vitamix, you know what I'm saying? That shit was worth it.
Yeah, Vitamix, that's hella good.
But, like, I was like, do I need this high-end luggage, though, for real? Like,
well, you got to start traveling. That's the thing.
That's true.
Once you start traveling,
no,
then
facts,
you'll
no,
see
facts.
more of the importance of, like, a good quality luggage, you know?
Yeah.
But if you're just going to get it and you're not going to be traveling, you probably don't need it, you know? But,
that's facts.
But once you hit the road, you'll be like, oh, this shit actually is, like, pretty convenient.
Yeah.
Up to you though. At the end of the day,
I mean, it looks hard as hell, like as
You
a
could
surface.
you could even just go somewhere with nothing and then just come back with a luggage.
That's what I say to people. Like, I definitely know that I'm capable of doing that. I just don't know because I haven't done it in mad long. You know what I mean? Like when I first got out, I got moved to a halfway house, and they control all like how many T-shirts you have, how many pants you know what I mean, everything, how much soap you got.
They're just keeping track of everything.
Bro, they wouldn't let me have a cell phone, so it was like, I know that you could drop me off in any city. I could know nobody there. I could have literally like $20 to my name, and I'll be able to go out and get food. I'll be able to go out and get like a bike or something, or just like hop on a bus. I'll be able to figure it out from like scratch.
Yeah.
But I'm like 36 now, and I haven't done it in that long, and now I'm like comfy as fuck. You know what I mean?
No,
like,
but I mean, it's like you can still like. What I was saying with that is just like, you don't even need a nice luggage to get out there and go travel, and like,
right.
you know, you could go out somewhere with a fucking, say, a backpack or something, but then you could get a luggage while you're there and fucking get different drip there and fucking, and then you could just come back and have your shit, you know? You don't need to get a rim while here and take it out there, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. It is a nice surface to paint on, though. Like, everything that you've done on those, I'm like, that's a nice little canvas right there, you know? And just, like, working on high end, was that, like, always something that you were into? You think, did you grow up with money when you were younger, or did you grow up poor?
Yeah, I didn't grow up, like, fucking, like, going and buying designer and shit, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I didn't, we used to go to the food bank, shit like that, but
So did it,
I know a lot of fools that had it worse than me, too, so I don't know. I definitely didn't come from bread. I wasn't out here having rim wise since I was a kid, or buying designer drip or none of that.
so
But
do you think, like,
that's what it was, though. To me, it was just like, oh, okay, like, got this shit, fuck this shit, you know? Because it's like, this shit ain't shit. It's just materials, you know?
right.
But and I was raised to be kind of not materialistic because fucking, like, of that, you know?
Yeah,
it's
you
like,
weren't having right then.
It's just like, and I already knew, like, this shit really ain't shit, you know? It's just like, just material shit. You don't necessarily need any of this shit. You need food, water. You can have drip without having designer shit.
Yeah.
It's just like I went to China and, like, even all the homeless fools had hella drip, but they're not out here rocking designer, but, like, they're wearing their shit with intention. So, yeah.
I fuck with that. I
but
mean,
no, I
the
didn't
reason
come
that
up
I
with
asked,
it.
like, not to, I feel like I kind of came off like being invasive there. Like, I was like checking.
No,
but
that's chill.
But I more was like asking because for me, like, when I was very young, I didn't have any money, so like copping like some Abercrombie shit back at that day was like fresh, and it began like my interest in high end stuff. So it went from like getting all the freshest shit at the mall to then like being like, oh, actually, like, fools would visit from out of town and tell me like, oh, this little shit that you're stealing here from your local mall, that's nothing. Like, you got to come to like New York and Boston and you got to hit these spots and shit. And then I started getting put onto different like labels, and I was like, I had no idea that clothes could cost this much. You know what I mean? I never like, it was weird for me when I first walked into a place where I saw clothing on the rack for like 7-8K, you know what I mean? And I was like, holy shit, like, it feels, if it does something, you know what I mean? And it's probably just because of, you know, my background, like where I'm from or whatever. That's my relation to these material objects. Like, when I see some of the surfaces that you paint on, the first thing that I think about is like the dollar amount of what's getting like destroyed. Ultimately, it's getting enhanced in a way, though. You're taking things that are worth, you know, thousands of dollars and elevating their value just by like doing your thing on them too, you know? So I was curious about that. Like, if it was like, you know, something where it was like a slow progression, like for you, like where you were like, okay, I'm into these clothes, now I'm getting into Archie, now I'm getting into Supreme, and now I'm getting into like real like luxury brand Givenchy stuff. Or was it like them like coming to you and being like, we feel like you should come up here, you know what I mean? Like, how did it go?
Yeah, I mean, more of the latter, really. It's like I wasn't similar to you. Like I knew the nice shit at the mall, you know, Polo, Lacoste. Like I was like, oh, more on that time where I was like, oh, like I need all the Polo shit. I need all Lacoste now. You know, just like get in the closet, like drip like that.
Mm-hmm.
But then it progressed into like, oh, okay. From traveling, really, it's just like going out to Europe, seeing fools rocking different drip out there, going to Tokyo, seeing fools rock different drip out there.
Mm-hmm.
That was all a part of the knowledge of it, you know. And yeah, seeing clothes cost like $700, $1,000, $8K, as you said, like. I feel you on the way that it's just like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, fools are cashing out like this.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's similar to art in the way of like intrinsic value. You know, it's like the value that you set to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why someone's like, oh, of course the materials and the quality got to be good, but they're like, oh, this is 8K just because, you know, it's just because someone said it for pretty much.
Right.
And that's the same with art. Like you buy a canvas from Blick, but then which was once fucking $24.99. Some fool does something on it. Now it's 10 bands, 20 bands. So intrinsic value plays a huge part in art, fashion, and I think all of our lives, just in hella different ways.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess for the painting on shit, my approach to it was kind of, one part of it was like, okay, this is just like, yes, it has this dollar amount, but fuck it. Like, it ain't shit. It's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one part of it. The second part of it, though, was I wanted to have my shit be on the best quality basis.
Right.
So I was like, well, what's a better quality base than the already designer shit? Because I didn't want to do shit on white tees and stuff like that. Like, it felt too basic. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to do this shit on CDG. I'm going to do this shit on YSL. I'm going to do this shit on a Rimwa. Because those bases are already fucking, like, refined and crafted from masters already, you know?
Definitely. You just said YSL and you just got me thinking about music and shit. I want to ask you about that because I will say, man, that, like, I've been, like, very surprised just scrolling through. And your stuff's so recognizable. Like, what's it called? The Finesse Pup?
Yeah, Finesse
your main
Pup
design?
Yeah.
And all of my favorite rappers have rocked your shit, you know? Seeing, like, the NFL jump off, like, when that went down, I was like, damn, this is crazy. Like, some of these, like, that one really got me hyped. Like, I was like, that's nuts. But for you, what was the craziest one for you? Like, do you have a particular, because for me, obviously, like, or I think I had the conversation with you before about how Thug is, like, my favorite rapper of all time. So, like,
Free Thugger.
Yeah, Free Thug. But just seeing like him or Gunna rocking some of your shit, I'm like geeked for you. I never even met you, you know what I mean? So which one for you like gave you like that feeling?
I don't know. I mean, I learned from the graph shit like before. Being so like deep in graph and like being like, oh, these fools are filthy, these fools smash shit.
Yeah.
That's like my favorite writer.
Right.
And then you meet these fools and they're just like
whatever
pieces of shit.
Yeah.
But fucking, coming into the fashion and art shit, like that's already kind of left me a bit.
Sure.
But of course, like, I fuck with fools that rock my shit. I don't know. There wasn't really like one where I was like, holy shit, you know?
Yeah.
I think something that has been interesting to me, though, is like the artists that do gravitate towards my shit. Usually it's artists whose shit like I'm already be like listening to in the studio and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I think it's kind of interesting how that works out because it's like, I feel like there's kind of like a connection there of just like the shit that I'm ingesting while in the studio and then what I'm putting out creates something where it's like fools still like gravitate towards it.
Yeah.
That are some of these same artists that I listen to.
Right.